And so it begins. I'm not sure what we're calling this, but we're doing it again. And at the end of this discussion, we shall discuss what we will call it. Let me say this on a much more serious note. Today's survey question asks, should media outlets show Ukraine's most graphic images despite the risk that consumers might stop viewing the news? Yesterday, Sunday, on the homepage of the New York Times website, they had a grisly photograph of a dead family in Kyiv. 4 people, 2 adults, 2 children. I was curious to see whether they would run it on the front page of the print edition, and they did. I said to James Meadows, the editor of Smerconish.com, given that this is our focus and our survey question, I'll keep my voice down when I say this, but I said, James, even if there's a rights issue, you have to put that photograph on the homepage of Smerconish.com and the newsletter. That's where I come down. I mean, reliable sources, Brian Stelter's newsletter contains this. Oliver Darcy writes, editors are facing tough choices as horrific images from the war in Ukraine make their way to newsrooms. To show the disturbing photos to audiences or not. There are arguments on each side. News outlets don't want to turn off readers and viewers in a way that causes them to stop consuming coverage of the war. That would have the opposite of the intended effect. Additionally, when showing images of the deceased, newsrooms don't want to dishonor the victims or offend their families. On the other hand, it's also important to show the ugly realities of war and not to sanitize the coverage. Obviously, the editors of the New York Times came down on the side of not sanitizing the coverage. So did we at the homepage as well as in the newsletter. But that's the survey question today at Smerconish.com. Something else that I would like people to go to my website and watch. I'm kind of bummed about this, TC, in a way, because what I'm sending people to view is a YouTube image, but it's not from my YouTube page. It's from CNN's. But the point is that I had Admiral William McRaven, 3 decades as a SEAL. He was the very tippy top of Operation Neptune Spear, which took out Osama bin Laden. He is the guy. I mean, holy smokes, is he impressive.
He's amazing.
And as I played earlier on radio today, I did about a 7-minute interview with him, and it has on YouTube, beyond the CNN audience that was viewing in real time and beyond anybody who heard my conversation on radio earlier, 2 million people have viewed.
Over 2 million.
Over 2 million people have viewed that clip.
Because, I mean, you can't discount 200,000, and it's now, so you know what I'm saying? So it's well over 2 million now, and I'm not surprised. I watched it, obviously, in real time. It was so good. Such a good conversation. You asked all the questions. He answered all the questions. So knowledgeable, so measured.
No BS.
No BS. And I work, as you know, obviously, I work the social media, and if I had to say something that was overwhelming but wasn't appropriate for me to then pile onto your actual program was, we need more like him in the government. Why isn't he running for president? Oh my God, what, his voice. So important.
Now you know why President Obama thought that he was a natural successor.
Right.
Also on CNN on Saturday, I talked about gas prices. There's a story that we've posted at ABC 7. $7 a gallon for regular gas. At least one station in Los Angeles is getting close to that mark. It's a Shell station at Olympic Boulevard and Fairfax Avenue. Advertising regular unleaded at $6.99 a gallon. The price for premium was listed at $7.29 a gallon. I had asked over the weekend in a survey question whether people thought that we needed to ban all Russian energy imports. 35,792 voted. Should the United States ban all Russian energy imports? 95.61% of the 35,000 said yes. One wonders, as the price escalates, where's the Mendoza line? Where's the tipping point? Where do we reach a level where people say, oh my God, this is just way too much? Yesterday, driving home from Washington, D.C., let me just think about this. So,
you don't have to. You're electric.
I get 300 miles. When I bought my current Tesla,
yes,
the range said 316 miles.
I was thinking it was like around 320. Okay, go ahead.
You also get a warning that says
bet
if
you
you
love that.
continue to charge all the way, you're diminishing your battery. So I've nevertheless, when I've charged fully. So my range is now at about 300.
Uh-oh.
So let me just think
They were
this
telling
through.
the truth.
I'm 140 miles to Washington, D.C. from my house. So I had a full charge. I went to Center City, Philadelphia on Saturday, did my CNN program. That's not a long distance.
No.
And then I continued on to Washington. And now I'm coming home from Washington. 140 times 2 is 280.
I was about to say, did
You'd
you have
think
to
I could make
recharge?
it. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
you had to or you wanted to?
No, I needed to.
Okay,
I
just
needed to
making
because
sure.
also in D.C. drove
Oh,
around
yeah,
a little
okay,
bit.
okay. Yeah.
So programmed into my car. I mean, coming home on I-95, you have countless choices in terms of where you go for charging. So, but here's the point I wanted to make. My charge yesterday was a 15-minute proposition to get me about 150 miles, and I paid $10.12 in charge. $10, and so I'm not feeling it. And my point is not to shame those of you who are not electric, but rather to say I think that one of the net effects of Ukraine and the oil situation is going to be that people will be even more inclined to go electric. And the real issue coming is when the F-150 comes out as an electric truck, that I think is going to steer a lot of people in that direction. Anyway, there's lots of Ukraine coverage. I also have NPR's story about how the United Nations Refugee Agency says that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has already prompted more than 1.5 million people to flee the war, the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. Read that story as well. How about this? Do you know the name Alina Kabeva? Do you know the name Alina Kabeva? This comes from page6.com. Vladimir Putin's mistress is allegedly hiding. Where do you think he's got her? Switzerland. With their 4 young children, sources tell Page 6, while Putin carries out his assault in Ukraine, attacking innocent citizens and causing a refugee crisis, his family's holed up in a very private and very secure chalet somewhere in Switzerland. I wonder if U.S. intelligence know her whereabouts. Sources say that they share a 7-year-old set of twin daughters born near Lugano, Switzerland in February of 2015. It is believed they also have 2 other sons. Do we not even know the answer to that question? Hopefully our security, our intelligence community does. I asked Admiral McRaven, I said, Admiral, no doubt you are very knowledgeable about that which is known of Putin's profile. Like, how well do we know the guy, and have you seen changes in his public demeanor? It's another reason to go watch the interview. I think I mentioned this story on Friday, but now we've linked to it at CNN.com. People around the world are booking Airbnbs in Ukraine. And if you're saying to yourself, geez, who wants to travel as a... No. Nobody's going. Nobody's going. It's just a means of putting money into the hands of people who desperately need it. Great story. There was some really interesting political coverage both today and over the weekend. A lot of it pertains to former President Donald Trump. I went with Josh Dawsey's coverage from the Washington Post today about the speech that the president gave in New Orleans, the former president gave in New Orleans, where he said that he's got the solution to what's going on in Ukraine. What we do is bomb the shit out of Russia with airplanes that have Chinese flags on them. He also praised North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as seriously tough, claimed he was harder on Vladimir Putin than any other president, and reiterated his false claims that he won the 2020 election. Dan Balls had a great piece from over the weekend, also in the Washington Post, but I put it in today's newsletter. I want you to read it, where he comes to the conclusion that while Trump has legal exposure, sure, really his fate is going to be determined at the ballot box. And I've consistently said that Trump has got to be solvent, healthy, and unindicted in order to run for president. So you have Dan Balls sizing up investigations that are taking place and saying, you know what? Even though these investigations are out there, chances are he gets to the ballot box in 2024. And so his fate will be determined not by any grand jury, not by any jury, not by any prosecutor, but rather by voters. And then I'm recommending that you also read the New York Times coverage, obviously in the newsletter today as well. Headline, How the Manhattan DA's Investigation into Donald Trump Unraveled. TC, I'm thinking of having you extend an invite to Michael Cohen to come back on the program.
Sure.
I did his podcast recently. He has not been on this program recently, and I will tell you why. Because Alvin Bragg is the successor to Cyrus Vance Jr. He's the Manhattan DA. He's the one that recently 2 senior investigators, prosecutors, left his employment, and that was interpreted as a sign of, hey, they're not going to indict Donald Trump. Now, this Times story over the weekend gives us the explanation. The explanation is that they are dubious of their ability to be able to rely on Michael Cohen. Quote, Mr. Cohen's testimony, the prosecutors leading the investigation argued, could help to establish that Mr. Trump was intentionally misleading when he exaggerated the value of his properties. The financial statements Mr. Trump submitted to banks to secure loans, documents that say Donald J. Trump is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the valuations, could also support a case, but Mr. Bragg was not persuaded. Apparently, they thought too much of the case hinged on a convicted felon, Michael Cohen, and that's the reason why Bragg apparently is not going to continue with the investigation. So there's that. There's also a story from Mediaite talking about a Politico Morning Consult survey. This is really interesting, about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who has been nominated as the Biden first, maybe only, Supreme Court pick. So when you break down the polling data as to those who are for and against this nomination, among white men, 33% with no college said Jackson is qualified versus 26% not qualified, while white men with college were twice as likely to say Jackson is qualified. In other words, white men with no college degrees, white men, think about this, who themselves lack a college degrees, are the ones to say that they are least likely to say that she's qualified. They are the least likely to say that she's qualified. And by the way, as I read this story and this polling data, who did I think of? Tucker. This is exactly what Tucker Carlson was channeling, right? When he wanted to have her LSAT scores. I'd like to have his SAT scores. Or ACT scores, whatever the case may be. One other, because I'm running out of time and there's something else that I want to make sure we get to. An LA Times editorial, also part of the newsletter today. Are state fair officials high? They should not reward super potent marijuana. Cannabis is making its debut at the California State Fair in July, taking its place among Chardonnays, craft brews, tomato salsas, pickled peppers, and Satsuma marmalades. What's a Satsuma marmalade, TC?
I actually don't know, but that sounds delicious.
Don't expect to see contest judges getting stoned in a booth between the popcorn and the piglets, though.
This is very well written.
Marijuana will be judged in a highly scientific competition with licensed growers sending their weed to a lab that analyzes the plants for several chemical compounds. Growers are submitting samples through the end of the month, blah, 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 different categories. They are, what they say is, it's not reasonable that a contest category recognizes the pot with the highest concentration of the acid form of THC. Yeah, I mean, I can attest to this. It is not, it is not your father's weed. It is not your grandfather's weed. It reminds me of two things. One, when on vacation last summer, I may or may not have taken members of my family to a grow facility in Marin County.
It was research.
It really, honest to God, could I ever convince you it was research?
No.
I just wanted to understand. How the whole industry works. My hand to God. That's all I wanted.
It's very cerebral, Michael.
But the ride back to where we were staying, I was like, slow down. What's going on? Slow down. And then when we got there, I slept for 4 hours. But it also reminds me of, who was it Maureen Dowd? Who wrote the piece?
Yeah. Maureen Dowd ate the brownie.
Is that
in
what
her
it was?
hotel room. And what happened was she took a few bites of it and then there was no reaction. So she ate more of it. I don't know if she ate the whole thing, but she ate way more than she should have. And then
taught her a lesson.
Michael, I think she was hallucinating for like 24 hours and couldn't
Be
move and thought
careful.
she was going to die.
Be careful.
And one brownie, the small print, 16 servings. 16.
Wow. So there's a lot more great stuff. It doesn't all pertain to Ukraine. And finally, TC, on Facebook last night, I posted an item, the headline of which was, "What should we call it?" Here's what I said. First came Smerconish.com, then the corresponding daily newsletter, which now boasts 65,000 daily subscribers, and now this, the YouTube presentation by TC and me of those headlines that make the newsletter. Thank you for your compliments. I'm glad that you like being able to watch us talk about the news. Now I'd like to request your help. What should we call our daily riff on the news? I have been saying newsletter cast, but frankly, I'm not sure it works. Might not be pithy enough. What do you think? Do you have a better idea? Please post it on my Facebook page. I'll review on radio. If I hear a suggestion that I like, we will use it. And I will send a signed book to whomever was first to make the suggestion. Thank you. I have not gone back, but I know you have, TC, and read the postings, but you tell me there are a ton of them.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I'm looking at the clock. We do not have time to run through all of them. Over 500 people have
500
commented.
already.
Over
Wait, with suggestions?
all with suggestions, some with multiple suggestions, all with phenomenal suggestions, Michael. Phenomenal suggestions.
I feel like Newsletter Cast is on its way out.
I am so impressed.
Really?
I am so impressed. Okay, let's just start. I couldn't go through all of them.
Right.
This is the beginning. This is going to be a process, okay?
Tell me.
Trust the process. Charles speaks for many when he says...
Joel Embiid. Go ahead.
When he says, thank you. I think you're overthinking it and have already named it. The Daily Riff. You said that in the paragraph. People read it. You don't have to make notes. I've got it all.
Okay.
The Daily Riff.
Daily Riff. Okay.
But now Dominic says midriff. Get it? Midriff, riffing from the middle, plus the play on words works, just cheeky enough to be humorous and true.
The midriff.
The midriff.
Midriff. Midriff.
Midriff. R-I-F-F. Midriff.
Well, I can only say this. Obviously, the next step is there'll be a logo. I will have a logo. I will obviously have a logo crafted, and we will use it to open this up, right?
It's so fun.
But if
the
it's
midriff,
if it's midriff,
the belly.
it's not my midriff. Trust me.
I
it is
volunteer.
not. Really?
Yes, I'm all about
TC,
it.
Let me tell you something. If you would lend your midriff,
I lend it.
Really?
Yeah, I've got good abs.
Okay. Wow. And humility.
Yeah. All right.
If
Helen.
if we could use your abs, I'm more inclined to do it.
Helen speaks for many.
Oh,
Again,
Helen and Woody. Go ahead.
This is not Helen and Woody, although I'm sure they have an opinion. The Daily Smirk. S-M-E-R-C. A lot of people. The Daily Smirk.
But smirk kind of implies like I'm smirking
Well,
at you
that's
in a negative way.
Some people think smirk like S-M-I and then S-M-E. Okay, let's just continue.
Loving it. I'm just being honest. I'm not loving it. Go ahead.
Lisa has many suggestions.
Jeez, thank you, Lisa.
Ready
Yeah.
for Lisa?
Yeah.
I'm going to run through them and then you tell me which one you like.
Tell me.
Outside the bubble, beyond your bubble, viewpoint plus, centered clippings, Smerconish spectrum, the middle with Michael, center scoop, LRC, left, right, center.
I think
Lisa.
Lisa? I think Lisa was at the California State Fair and was investigating all the potent weed that I just talked about a moment ago. I have to slow down and go through all of those. They sound great.
Carolyn says, you're so careful to get just the right hook on your music lead-ins.
True.
How about the hook with Michael and TC?
The hook.
The hook.
I'm not loving it.
Robert says...
Thank you, though, but I'm not loving it.
Robert says, newsletter cast is fine by me, but it might be a bit clunky.
It is.
I was thinking about maybe the 20.
The 20.
20.
The thing is,
but I love that.
Thank you, Robert. There are 20 links that I hand select, but we can't. What did I just get through? 5?
I know.
I can't get through 20.
Hey, it's a lightning round, Michael. You need to
20.
shorten your thoughts.
Yeah.
Jeff says,
Can I still call it the 20 if we don't get through 20?
trying for the 20?
Trying for the 20.
Jeff,
4/20ths?
Jeff liked the 420. What? Jeff liked the the picture that you posted on Facebook and says city center, middle of Broad. A lot of
Yes,
people
it was.
want to play on
It
the
was taken at Broad and Chestnut.
right. A lot of people want to play on both the daily something, daily cast, daily something.
I don't want to bump up against the Times and their podcast.
Terry says, how about the broadcast?
The broadcast.
Philly throwback and a metaphor for casting a wider tent. I mean, the cool thing about this, Terry, is one of them. People
The
not only have
broadcast.
good ideas, but reasons for it.
The broadcast. The broadcast.
Keith says, with the popularity of your
I kind of like that.
unboxing videos,
Yeah.
why not try Unboxed or Newsletter Unboxed, Show Prep Unboxed, Headlines Unboxed, Unboxing Headlines, Unboxing with Michael and TC.
TC, you're all of a sudden now now my juices are flowing here. Remember, the most popular advertising ever in the it's for a reason. There's barely never been any advertising for me. But those bus backs. Remember the bus backs with the back of my head? People,
There's something there like headlines.
That was headlines redefined. That was headlines.
Are we bringing that back?
Maybe. Headlines redefined. Headlines redefined.
A lot of people want to use your name. David says Michael in the middle. Chris KR says
it sounds juvenile to me.
Open mic.
It sounds like people are passing a ball back and forth and I'm not able to catch it.
Open mic.
Mic.
Zach says, how about Smerconish? Dead center. It's simple, direct, and of course a subtle nod to your new studio shoes.
It's not only that, but Adfontis said that among 1,400 media outlets surveyed, I'm as close as you get to the middle. So
Smerconish,
dead center.
Get it dead, but I love that.
But I kind of, I
know you.
like that,
right?
I kind of like who?
Zach.
Zach. Yeah. Okay.
A couple
I said
more.
I wasn't going to take notes, but I'm taking notes.
Okay, a couple more.
Yeah.
Gina says, the median, your mode for non-mean news. A little math humor. Thank you, Gina.
The median.
And finally, to bring it all
Except
back.
I always screw it up with the mean, so I don't know if it works for me.
And finally, Karen will bring it all back to California.
Yep.
How about the daily hash?
The daily hash. Okay. All roads.
But by the way, that's the tip of the iceberg.
Keep them coming. Woo. Keep them coming because there is going to be a winner, and we are going to keep doing this at least for one more day. All right. Vote at Smerconish.com on today's survey question, which is, should the United States, it was not that. Should media outlets show Ukraine's most graphic images despite the risk that consumers might stop viewing the news? See you tomorrow.